Cancer is a disease that impacts millions of Americans each and every year, and the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network held their Lights of Hope event in memory of those who have battled cancer, as well as those who are celebrating survivors. WKYT's Jessica Umbro talking with organizers about their personal connections to this cause.
We just want to be able to celebrate people, but then also remember the people that we've lost and all the beautiful souls.
Remy Kennedy says when she lost her father to pancreatic cancer in 2013, she wanted to raise awareness for the battles fought by cancer patients.
He didn't receive the best care, the best patient care, and I was really looking for something to get involved in to just help me pour that love in for him into.
The Lights for Hope event is meant to symbolize strength, hope, and memories of those touched by the disease. The bags were decorated, some with pictures of loved ones to remember those lost.
When I lost my mother, it was a whole nother ballgame. Again, I couldn't do enough, I couldn't be enough in the fight against cancer.
Kim Lindgren says breast cancer took her mother, but led her to give back to others.
Advocacy plays a critical role in gaining those dollars for research, for cancer prevention programs.
Advocacy that Remy says can include going to lawmakers to bring attention to the need to fund cancer research and to help those who are living through their clash with cancer every day.
It's so important just for people to know how much cancer impacts Kentucky and how much we can do to fight against that and to make sure that we're being heard and making those laws get passed for cancer patients to provide a better quality of life.
In Lexington, Jessica Umbro, WKYT.
More info about the American Cancer Society Cancer Action Network can be found over on WKYT.com and right now inside this story on the WKYT News app.